December 1989. The Romanian Revolution began and ended, all in only 9 days. There was a period of chaos and unrest before, during, and after the uprising. But with the death of communist leader Nicolae Ceaușescu, Romania was no longer subject to the same guidelines and restrictions that came with a communist government. Artists no longer had to resort to between-the-lines messaging, no decoding keys were necessary, and the ugly was just that, ugly. With this newfound freedom, many aspiring filmmakers seized the opportunities to tell new stories, but perhaps not as new as one would have expected. Romanian filmmakers such as Corneliu Porumboiu, Radu Muntean, and Cristian Nemescu would use cinema to capture that which they had been unable to capture before. Reality, unfiltered, yet unflattering. They, along with many other filmmakers whose works would later be popularized amongst film festivals across the globe, would create a genre of film that would come to be known as Romanian New Wave, which would be most prevalent during the early to mid-2000s. Now, cinema across the globe is varied, covering all manners of different genres and stories reflective of the ideas of their creators and cultures. Yet an understated aspect of modern cinema especially is the distinct separation from reality. The world of film may be different from our own in some regards. Perhaps the characters have special powers or are capable of impossible feats. Maybe the way things operate is simplified or changed for an ease of viewing. Or maybe the characters will simply avoid the easy way out in favor of something with a bit more entertainment value. Whatever the case, film will often make sacrifices for the sake of the viewing experience. Yet back in its infancy, the primary focus of cinema was not on telling or creating new stories, but capturing and replaying life itself. Mundane acts like eating dinner with one's family or taking a walk were recorded and replayed for anyone to watch again and again. This is where Romanian New Wave separates itself from its contemporaries. Instead of putting primary emphasis on its storytelling and entertainment value the way that many modern movies do, the genre takes on an ironically old-fashioned approach. Common features of films in the genre include subdued, minimalist visuals, a strong emphasis on long takes and fixed angles, and most predominantly a dry, witty humor that grounds itself in reality. To call its emphasis on dialogue a core pillar of the genre is perhaps an understatement. Entire scenes are often dedicated solely to conversations between characters, relying entirely on the charm and banter of its personalities to keep the audience focused, rather than actions and visuals. Yet this focus all serves to highlight the cornerstone of Romanian New Wave, capturing a window into life itself. Look at 1208 East of Bucharest, for example, which spends its first 30 minutes setting up its primary characters by simply demonstrating their everyday lives and behaviors, only to dedicate the remaining hour of runtime to a long scene of all three of its primary characters on an uninterrupted talk show. The dialogue, characters, and scenarios feel authentic and lifelike, and even its sprinklings of humor are based off of the absurdity of reality, first and foremost. Yet the film I feel best encapsulates Romanian New Wave is The Paper Will Be Blue, centering around a small military squad during the Romanian Revolution. A young soldier within the group leaves to join the revolution, leaving his squad to attempt to retrieve him. Now, the deserter doesn't turn his back on his duty out of a deep sense of nobility. He doesn't witness a great injustice that leaves him jaded toward his position. He isn't promised a great reward for his treachery. He does it on a whim, because the idea of glory and the chanting of protest enthralls him. Likewise, his squad searches for him for a blend of very human reasons, concern, annoyance, or fear for their positions. They don't treat him like a traitor off the bat or just call for his execution by firing squad, because they know he's young and reckless. Later in the film, The deserter gets into a firefight while working with a group of rebels, yet it turns out to be a miscommunication, and he was firing at yet another group of rebel fighters. The deserter is interrogated, and upon being found with a military uniform, he is accused of being a spy and imprisoned. One would perhaps expect his squad to catch wind of this act and storm the building to free their comrade. Or perhaps the man manages to use his ingenuity and wit to escape his jackals? No. The men holding him simply verify his innocence and let him go without a fuss. The man returns home where his family and squad await him, and he rejoins them. Everyone makes up and ultimately sets off by morning. The Paper Will Be Blue isn't an action film. It isn't a commentary on the oppression of communism and the evils of man. It is, in essence, a photo of reality. Most of the film centers around characters simply holding conversation and reacting to the world around them, with its sparse action simply depicting the disorganized chaos that it is. Because true to its setting, the Romanian Revolution was a chaotic and disorganized movement. The Romanian Revolution took a heavy toll on human lives. In total, 1,166 people, civilians, officers, and army conscripts were killed, and 4,069 injured, whereas the popular uprising against Ceaușescu had cost the lives of 159 people and caused injuries to another 1,502. A much higher number of victims, 967 dead and 2,587 injured, were recorded after December 22nd, the day Ceaușescu was flown out of Bucharest and arrested. The Paper Will Be Blue opens on December 23rd, with its main characters pulling over at a military checkpoint. The former deserter and a comrade of his climb out of the vehicle and exchange a few friendly words before sharing a cigarette. 1 minute later, the soldiers behind them open fire, instantly gunning down the entire squad. Every other event in this film serves only to provide context for this event, leaving the viewer with the knowledge of the character's inevitable slaughter. Because the film is a photo of reality, and reality can be messy and brutal, yet that doesn't prevent the characters from moving forward. They live in the present. We may know their future, but they do not. They continue on blissfully unaware of what future awaits them. Current renegotiations of Romania's revolutionary moment have much more to do with concerns about the present than the past. These renegotiations seek to create new possibilities for action in a highly skeptical, disgruntled Romanian society that has stubbornly refused to engage with its past, and anything seen as belonging to it for over 20 years now. I think the best way to describe Romanian New Wave is human. People have clear flaws. They have bad habits, and sometimes they'll do things that defy common sense. But other times, they'll lend a helping hand. They'll be reckless, but altruistic. They'll have people they love, people they don't. They might even find common ground in the unlikeliest of places. That's reality. It's chaotic and sometimes uncontrollable, but it's life. And I think more than anything, the genre does a good job at capturing that idea on the silver screen.